Hello and welcome. We're at webinar number 4 today, Managing Your Production in the Sophisticated Business System for the Professional Landscape Company. Thanks so much for joining us. Today is number 4, and I hope you've enjoyed the webinar series so far. And so far, the response has been great. So today we're going to take everything from after you've won the contract or won the job, and then move forward from there. So as a high-level overview, we'll just come back and take a look. So we've looked at budgeting, we've looked at managing your sales and using a customer resource management system. We've looked at how DynaSCAPE design integrates into Manage 360 for the purpose of doing your estimating. And then our estimating system and setting up your centralized cost book, generating your estimate and producing your proposal. And so today we're really going to take a look at managing the contract and everything that goes along with that, managing the production, setting up timesheets, scheduling your crews, setting up routes, and tracking time and materials for your crews using the DynaSCAPE mobile crew tracking app. And then in our last webinar, we'll be looking at billing and reporting, so that'll be next week. So today, it's all about winning the contract. You've earned the work, and now it's time to schedule it. So we'll absolutely take a look at that. How to get your materials ordered for your design build jobs, creating the timesheets, dealing with any client requested changes, and tracking the crew's time and material that they've used at that job or at that particular visit. And then costing, so being able to compare what you've estimated versus what you've actually used and what the job's actually costing you. And we'll talk about maintenance routing, so setting up your routes, optimizing with Google Maps. We use Google Maps Premium API to connect to that to optimize your routes. And then scheduling those routes. So once you've set up the framework for that, actually getting a schedule for that. And then talking about change orders. So, and we all know every single job has a change order. We want to know how to account for them. And what we really recommend is dealing with each change as they arise. And so we see here the original contract and then what ends up being the change order. And we've all been there. We understand what that's all about. So what I'd like to do is we'll get into Manage 360 and we'll look at a job here. And it's actually the estimate that we looked at in the previous webinar. So we have that front yard planning project, and we'll go ahead and set this and we'll win it. So we'll go action to estimate 1. It's going to be based on our reputation. We don't know what crew is going to do that yet. But we know that the job, we're a couple of weeks out, so we'll probably schedule that for the 10th of September, and we'll win that. And so now it's going to create the contract, and essentially we're in a situation where we're all about production now. So we're now to find us, we're under production, and then jobs. So that's how we would get back to the screen if we navigate it away. So we have everything that we need to do in this area, including all of the tabs to manage the production of this job. So the tasks, we went over a task system in the first webinar, but you can manage any new tasks or set of tasks for this particular job so that nothing slips through the cracks. A journal, which basically is your audit log of everything that happens as it relates to the job. Any timesheets that you've created and approved for the purpose of costing and payroll, and the contract here. So here's the contract. We expand it all. It's got all the details of what's involved. And we have the current contract. When we produce a change order, here's where you create your change order. Any pending change orders or approved change orders will show in this drop down, and you'll have your original contract, any pending or approved change orders, and then the current contract. And the current contract will always be a culmination of any approved change orders that are all as part of that. Billing, so we can set up the billing here. And in the estimate, we had set it up as a milestone bill. So we have a deposit and then a payment upon the commencement of work. And so you can have, based on the original contract, you can have payments for individual change orders, which is absolutely what we recommend. So when you do have a change order, you should be getting payment for that change at the time of that change order being created. And then once you have sign off and payment, you go ahead and produce the work. Any invoices will show here, so you can create your invoice, which will then reflect under the billing tab. And then job actuals, of course. So any time and materials that you used when the crew is out doing the work and will be entered through the app, will then get entered into this area once you've approved their timesheet. And so when we expand all the items, in this case, so if we look at our brown dyed mulch, we know that our actual, unit cost is $29.08. But if for some reason, let's say at the supplier, we were able to get a cubic yard of that brown dyed mulch instead of $29.08, it was $27.50. We can, or $27.50. We can account for that, and then that'll be our actual unit cost. So we can account for the actual unit cost. So when you get the weigh bill or the packing slip, it'll have the actual unit cost. You can put that in there directly. And then, of course, the analysis, be able to show how many labor hours you've used, the revenue, and then your estimated versus actual. You can show materials, plants, labor, equipment. It'll break it all down for you, including your total cost, overhead, and your profit. So now that we kind of have an orientation around the job screen and managing all of that, let's just flip over quickly to a maintenance contract. And so it's a little bit different, and the reason is that, and we all know that managing production for a design build job is a little bit different than managing for a maintenance contract and series of visits. But really, all of the data is very similar. So all the information as it relates to the account and to the contract. Again, any tasks, you can create a new task or add a set of tasks for workflow so that nothing slips through the cracks. You have the journal here, so you can create a new entry. And then the contract. So we have a spring, fall cleanup. We have our mow and trims, 26 weekly visits with a maximum of 29. Our garden maintenance services, aeration overseeding, and our fertilization weed control program. So all of that is there. When we look at each individual visit, each visit is then set up as a individual work order. So from this screen, we can set a date for the visit. We can schedule that and then assign a crew. We can also adjust the status and the substatus of that particular work order. So if it's been confirmed, if it's partially complete, completed as requested, completed with follow-up, and you can adjust each one of these substatuses. So when you initially invest in a Manage 360, these are the standard sub-statuses that you will get. System-based statuses are the open, closed, and canceled, but you can control exactly what the sub-statuses say. So if you want that custom to you, you can absolutely do that. And then any timesheets that have this, any visits from this contract will show up here so that you can go directly to that timesheet and edit that. And again, you can look at the actuals. So as your crew is out and doing the work, they can submit their information using the app. And so I'll just bring that app over. So this is a direct shot from my phone here. And so, you know, we see the list of all the visits that the crew is supposed to go out and do. And so they can just hit the orange button and clock in and clock out, add any notes. And then so at the end of the day, they would submit their timesheet, and they can go ahead and do that. So they would just submit their timesheet when they're all done. If for any reason, you know, you get a rain delay and not able to meet any of the visits that they were supposed to do on their route, from the app, they can go ahead and reschedule those visits to the next day or to a Saturday to do a catch-up day or something like that. So you can look at your completed visits and see your costing that way, or all visits and do your analysis based on every visit, whether you've done it or not. And then down at the bottom, you have your contracted visits and time and material visits, what you've estimated versus actual, your hours, cost, overhead, break-even, profit margin, and your total price. And then billing. So your monthly installments. So the first one is ready to go. We can go ahead and add that to the invoice. Any installments or time and material work would show up here that's ready to be invoiced. And you can combine those invoices all to be to one so that your client's only getting one invoice rather than multiple. And when we go over and look at our calendar then, so we're looking at the week view, and to get here, you go production and scheduling, and that brings you to the calendar view. And along the left side here, we have all of our divisions. So we have a construction, a maintenance, and a snow division. And within that, we have all of the crew supervisors. And within the supervisors, we have all the crews that they're responsible for. And so when we select a crew supervisor or unselect it, their crews will show up or not, depending what we've done. So, you know, removing everything from the calendar. When we just go here and look at Brittany's crew, we see that her crews are scheduled throughout the week. And same with Andre's crews. Any work can then be scheduled from here as well. So we have a Smith residence mow and trim that we can add to the calendar. So we can just take that and drag that over. If that didn't get done, we can put that on the calendar for a Saturday. And we can assign a crew along with that. So if we assign maintenance crew 2 and then bring that over, we can definitely do that. So that's how we handle scheduling. You can do it that way, or within the contract itself, you can go in and schedule the visits. So we'll do that today for a couple minutes from now, and then assign the crew, maintenance crew 1, and this visit will then now show up in the app for them in the order that we want them to do it. If we go over to our timesheet, so production and then timesheets, we have a list of all of the timesheets that have been created, and go ahead and create a new timesheet for today, and maintenance crew 1, go create timesheet. Anything that's been scheduled for them, including that Grady residence spring cleanup, would then automatically show up on the crew, on the timesheet, and would show up in the app for the crew leader. You can go into that visit and make any adjustments that you need to for that particular visit, and that would then also reflect in what needs to happen within the app for the crew so that they can see any additional instructions, any additional information that they need to be able to see. And you'll be able to save that individual work order, and then once they've submitted it, you can get it ready for billing and create the invoice. Let's just take a look over at our routing. So under production and then routing. So here we have a sample route that we've set up for the Monday maintenance crew, for our blue crew, all the mowing services and maintenance services. So we have starting location, and then all of the different visits that we need to do. We have additional visits that meet the criteria as well based on all the services that we want to be able to have in the particular route. So if we wanted to, we could just go ahead and add it in there if we wanted to, or if we wanted to remove it, we can just remove it that way. And by refreshing, it would then show up here as well. So then when you do that, you set up the framework for your route, and then from here you can set the occurrences. So you can add an occurrence, or you can set all of the occurrences. And in this case, they've already been set, and you can see when they've all been scheduled, what crew's been assigned, and how many visits are within each one of those occurrences of those routes. So setting up your routes is pretty easy. In the details, going back to the details of the route, if you want to be able to optimize, hitting this button will then optimize your route. This is, it'll basically send all of your addresses for your accounts over to Google Maps. Google will then optimize it and give you an optimized order and see the difference in the list. And it's just a more optimized way to be able to get to where your crews need to go efficiently as possible and showing up on the right side of the road so that they don't have to cross the street with their equipment. You can just apply that, and it'll show how many hours are as part of that particular route. And save and close that. Again, you have your timesheets. And so working through your schedule, your routing, your jobs, and then your crew audit, of course. A crew audit gives you all of the data from the clock ins and outs from your crew that you've been doing. And so it'll show your crew leader and each person on your crew. It'll show the distance from where they clocked in and clocked out. It'll show on a map where they clocked in and clocked out so that you can keep tabs on your crew. And this will update as they clock in and clock out. We'll head back to our design build job and just run through a quick change order. And that's okay. So we'll just do a quick change order. And here we have all the information about the change. So we can add new items, delete items, make substitutions, and change quantities. And we can edit general conditions as well. And then from there, once we do that, we can also set up our billing. So if it's a very large change order, then you can break it up into payments, or many payments, or just one payment. So payment upon receipt for the change order is ideal. So you can set up all the details, and once you do that, you can go ahead and save that. There is an approval process for the change order, going to get your client to approve it, take payment, and then within the system approve the change order that would get then applied to your contract. So we'll just cancel out of that. And then from actions, there's a series of reports that are specific to the job, and you can produce a material list, a work order report, a material list for production, and a purchase order report. And the purchase order report will show everything, all of the materials and the suppliers for that report. So all suppliers can have it shipped to the job site or to the yard. We'll have it shipped to the job site. And go ahead and view that report for today. We'll go and view that. And so for this nursery, it has all the plants. Then we have our topsoil from a different supplier. We have a tree from a different supplier, hard to get tree, and some additional plants. And so each different supplier has its own purchase order, so you can send those directly to that supplier to create your purchase order. Would love any feedback. If you have any questions, would love to talk to you more about it. But that really is Manage 360 and its production management capability. A very sophisticated system, high-level overview today. But we'd love to have any feedback from you. If you have any questions, my name is Joe Salemi. I'm the Product Marketing Manager with DynaSCAPE Software. My email address is on the screen here, jsalemi@dynascape.com. My phone number is there. Please reach out at any time if you have any questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next week in our final installment of this webinar series, where we'll take a look at generating invoices, taking care of your billing, and all of the necessary reporting that you'll need to make proper business decisions, manage your crews, and run an efficient business. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye for now.